There can be some really, really tough moments in adoption. I know our family has had situations where we thought we were going to be placed with, and then birth parents changed their mind. We even had one placement for a few days, and the father decided that he wouldn't sign, and so we had to return the child back to his birth mom. How do you guys, I know you've all had similar situations. How do you react to that? How do you cope with that? And then how do you move on to continue to stay in adoption after you've done that?
My feeling is that if someone thinks that my husband and I would be good parents for their child, that's amazing, and I am really grateful for that. But it's not my child until papers are signed and it's a done deal. I don't ever want birth parents in my life to regret their decision or to think that they made a mistake by placing with us. And for me at least, I think that as hard as it is for me going through a failed placement and having them decide that they're going to parent, placing a child for adoption is probably much harder. Yeah. And so I think that it's okay. It's really hard. But it's okay because I want them to be 100% sure of their decision if they're going to place before they sign. And it was hard those first few days after that. And when the baby's born, it's going to be hard, but it's okay. To me, I have to think of that there's something that's going to work out and there's some reason that they're placing or they're parenting and something is going to happen.
I know for us, someone had once said in one of the adoption support groups that I had gone to that they had to just remind themselves that when things didn't work out at the time that they wanted them to, that it was because Heavenly Father had something so much more important or a bigger plan for us. That wasn't part of our plan, and that might have been part of that individual's plan, and maybe part of their plan was for us to be involved somehow, but not to maybe have the same end result that we would have wanted, kind of things on our timetable. But it's devastating. It's like despair. Like you were just at the lowest of possible lows. And I think you just get to where I know for me, I didn't want to have anything to do with anybody. I wanted to just isolate myself. I just thought, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Like, this is too hard. It made me, for when we had future connections or communications with birth moms, I got to the point where I didn't want to say a word to my parents, my family, anybody, because they saw the depths of despair that you got to and the pain that can be associated with that. And they just want to help, and nobody knows what to do. And I didn't want to get anybody's hopes up, and you don't want to get your own hopes up, and, but yeah, I think in the end, you just have to look at it like you want to know that this was the right decision for everybody involved. And you want to know that that child was meant for your family. And it may very well be that that wasn't the case. And in our particular situation, choosing to parent this child for this individual was ultimately the best decision possible. Her life's completely changed around. She just recently got married to a great guy. She's expecting another little girl. We stay in communication. And it really was what she needed in her life to turn it around and become the person that she wanted to be. And I couldn't be happier for her. And, obviously that's easier for me to see now than at the time where it's, so devastating. Nice. But, things work out. They really do. And, part of that, I think, is for our own growth along the way. But it doesn't make it sting any less.
Sure. I think that the hardest thing for me with our failed placement was just that it's so intangible. It's such a great loss. But I wasn't pregnant and I didn't miscarry. And so there wasn't, and then again, because so many other people aren't educated and they don't really understand what's going on, there was just like nothing. There was this void and there was this loss, and I was so sad. and nobody knew what to do or how to help me or what to say. And so nobody said anything. And so I felt so alone in it. But in feeling that loss and in that grief, I feel like I've become a more empathetic person in general. And I felt like I was able to understand a little bit more. It's not the same as placing a child by any means, but I was able to understand that feeling of loss a little bit better. Yeah. And so I felt like it prepared me for future experiences. And so I wouldn't change the experience. It was so hard, and I hated it. At the time, it's so devastating, and it really is such an intangible loss because it wasn't your child. And in our case, there wasn't like, it's not like I could just say, well, I'll get pregnant again, or not that that's okay in miscarriage or anything else like that, but
well, it's so complex too, because you have to be the bigger person.
Yeah.
Like you can't, because that was never your child, you can't be angry and lash out. Maybe you can be angry. I think it's okay to feel that, but you can't, you shouldn't let that out. You shouldn't go after the birth mom or the birth dad and tell them how terrible they are for stringing you along. And because I don't believe in most of these situations, at least the situations that I was in, nobody was trying to do anything. They weren't trying to do this to me. It's not like they're like, okay, I got a plan. Let's pretend like we're gonna place and then like just totally rip it out from under him. It's not what happened. And so you need to recognize that, and you need to be able to see that. And that's hard. That sucks though. That's like, so you've got this grief, and then on top of that, you've got to like be level-headed and understand what's happening. But
it's
that's
hard to
it.
be mature.
But that's
when
what you
you're
got to
sad.
do. Yeah. But that's what you have to do. And you can still be sad about it. And people will tell you, the people that are angry or like angry at your sadness are going to tell you, well, I was never your child. You shouldn't be sad, or whatever. And then other people are going to try to be angry at the birth parents for you,
which isn't helpful.
Yeah, and you got to tell them, hey, no, I loved them, and just because this happened doesn't mean that I don't love them anymore, even though it might be really hard in some situations,
And just because they made a different plan doesn't mean that I don't respect their decision either.
Right.
It's just as hard for us on that end. But I think one of the things that helped us and after the fact was we honestly went to grief counseling. And
awesome.
And honestly, like, it helped not only with the failed placement, but also with a lot of the grief that comes with infertility. And it's helped, as there are losses throughout life, of just giving us tools of how to cope and how to deal healthily with loss in life, because none of us will get out of life without some sort of loss.
We did Disney and Legoland therapy.
I like good therapy.
We went to Mexico.
And I tell people that and luckily we were in a situation where we could do that.
Right.
And, but you may not be able to go to Greece or something right away.
Fine.
After a failed place. But find a way. I think you do need to kind of step out of the world for a second and not only just step out of the world, but step out of the world, but into your family. And that's what Disneyland was for us. Like, we still got these two wonderful kids that would love to go to Disneyland, and we can go and have fun.
Right.
And then after we got home and we're in the hotel room and they're asleep, we cried.
Absolutely. And I would say, don't be afraid of feeling sad, and don't pretend like it's not hard and like it's not sad, because it's not really doing anybody any favors by not acknowledging your feelings. You have to feel to heal. That's what we say. Feel to heal.